Coming up on Transformers University, we are going by the numbers into 1987. We'll dissect all of the tech specs for the Autobots and the Decepticons. Find out who is the weakest Autobot up until this point in the Transformers line. We'll compare Targetmasters versus their previous versions. We'll find a few errors in the tech spec cards. And we'll find a shocking, and I do mean shocking, Decepticon with a very high rank. You're not going to want to miss this right now on Transformers University. Hello, my friend, and welcome to Transformers University. I am your host, Anthony Brucali, owner-operator Madman behind TFU.INFO, the website tutorial archive. This podcast, TFU News and Views podcast, and oh so much more. And I want to welcome you to our 1987 By the Numbers episodes. Now, our 1987 By the Numbers episode. Now, this episode seems to be a favorite. I always get a lot of nice feedback about these episodes. I've done one for 84, 85, and 86, and we're going to now delve into 1987 and talk a bit about the tech spec numbers on the Autobots and Decepticon side, plus the mold breakdowns, how many new, how many reuses, and things along those lines. And we'll also start to play some things within the history of the brand, because as we're going into 1987, getting away from, say, the core cast of folks that we've seen in an animated series that have been the focal points of TV episodes, I think it's harder to get a sense of who these characters are, what they do, without that supporting media. So when we have basically only the tech spec and a little bit of whenever they would appear in the Marvel comics, we don't have a lot of information around these guys. So it's going to be fun to kind of just break down what they are and where they fit into the hierarchy of the Autobot and Decepticon armies. Now, if you're familiar with these episodes, then thank you for coming back. If it's your first time, let me explain to you how this works. So we're going to talk about these characters in terms of their function and how that fits within one of 5 groups. And the 5 groups I've broken everything down to, and they're fairly general breakdowns, are command, so leadership roles, infantry. Those are basically the fighters, the people that are in those Decepticon and Autobot ranks to fight the warriors, essentially. Though this area is starting to get a little muddy now because the roles get a little bit more specific. There's also what I like to call engineering. These are folks that either build things or help get things done from an operational perspective. And then there's the intelligence group, which is part spycraft, part strategy, part data gathering, if you will. So those are the folks that I feel like fit into that realm. And then finally, and we don't have one in all of 1987 on either side, is the medical group. So those are the doctors, the folks that repair or maintain their fellow Autobots and Decepticons. So with the explanation out there for all of you newbies, if you haven't been here before, let's take a look at the 1987 Autobots. Now, breaking down those Autobots into these fields, we have 2 characters at the command level, and that would be Fortress Maximus, the headmaster leader and biggest toy of 1987, and actually the biggest toy in Transformers for almost 2 decades beyond that. And we have Scattershot, the Technobot leader. Now, these 2 both fit into the leadership command category, mainly because their functions mention the words leader. In the engineering pool, we've got 6 Autobots joining these ranks, and that would be Brainstorm, the biomechanical engineer. I guess he could kind of fit into the medical realm as well if we wanted to tag him that way. But for the purposes of this conversation, we'll keep him in the engineering pool. We've got Crosshairs, the weapons supervisor, Double Cross, the supply procurer, Freeway, the saboteur, Point Blank, the enforcer, and Wide Load, the materials transport. Now, in 1987, we've got 10 new members of the Autobot infantry, and it starts with Afterburner, the gunner, Cloudraker, who is listed as a sky fighter, Computron, the combined form of the Technobots, as Super Warrior, as most combined robots usually are listed, Fastlane, the warrior. We have Hardhead, the tank, who is listed as ground assault. That makes sense. We have returning from 1986. We have Hot Rod and Cup as cavalier and warrior, respectively. Nosecone is listed as an assault vehicle. He is a drill tank. I guess that would fit for him. Strafe, the aerial gunner, and Sure Shot, the sharpshooter. And finally, the intelligence pool for the Autobots in 1987 starts with a returning member, Blur, the data courier. He is a messenger, which, it still gets me because they hired John Moshida as the voice, and he was known for those FedEx commercials. So he's essentially John Moshida's FedEx commercial character as a Transformer, and part of that just really seems amusing to me. We've got Chase, the scout, Chrome Dome, the computer programmer, Goldbug, formerly known as Bumblebee, gets promoted from espionage to espionage director. Grotesque is the military strategist. Highbrow is there for electronic warfare. Lightspeed is their data processor. We've got Punch, the double agent. Repugnus works in counterintelligence. Rollbar is the Autobots tracker. And Searchlight is there for surveillance. So that's the mix that we have of Autobots in various function fields, as I like to call them in my notes. But let's get into those numbers. The numbers here we're going to talk about are the rankings for strength, intelligence, speed, endurance, rank, courage, firepower, and skill. And we kick things off with strength. Now, of course, and he's probably the winner for jacked stats, as we like to call it, in this type of episode. Fortress Maximus pretty much has a 10 or a 9 in just about every category. And that goes most particularly for strength, of course, where he is the only Autobot in 1987 to have a 10 in this category. Now, 4 Autobots have a 9 in strength, including Computron and Hardhead for the infantry portion of these listings, as well as Wide Load for the engineering side. And one character who may seem very unlikely has risen to 9 strength in the intelligence pool, and that is Goldbug, the rebuilt form of Bumblebee. And not all of Goldbug's stats have gone up. A lot of them have stayed the same from when he was Bumblebee, but strength is the one that has taken the biggest jump, jumping 7 points higher than it was when he was Bumblebee. So in his Throttlebot Goldbug form, Goldbug is as strong as Computron, Hardhead, his fellow Throttlebot Wide Load, and just a tick less stronger than Fortress Maximus. And it actually places him stronger than Scattershot or Cup in 1987, who both have strength of 8. Now, on the weak side, we have our weakest Autobot to date, the only Autobot to ever get a strength total of 1, and that would be. Can you guess? Are you saying a Throttlebot? Are you saying one of the Technobots? You're wrong on all accounts. It is Double Cross, the monster bot. The Autobot supply procurer has a strength of 1, which is the lowest in the first 4 years, dipping just below the previous low of 2, which was the original Bumblebee toy, and Cosmos. So there you have it. If you want a trivia answer, weakest Autobot in the first 4 years, lowest tech spec strength score for an Autobot in G1. Double Cross, so far, and I don't know if there are others, we'll find out as we go through these years together, Double Cross is the lowest. But strength isn't everything. Let's talk a little bit about brains and move on to intelligence. Now, once again, we have Fortress Maximus sitting at a 10 in this category. He is by far the most powerful figure and character in 1987, followed right there at 10 by the Autobot Combiner and part of the infantry pool, Computron, with an intelligence of 10. Now, I did a little comparison here of Autobot Combiners in my notes, and he's not the first one to have a 10. Defensor also had a 10 for intelligence, but the Autobot Combiners on a whole, especially Computron and Defensor, are pretty similar. Computron is a bit stronger. Defensor is got a little bit more endurance, but Computron's numbers actually better pretty much all around. And Superion, not the brightest bulb in the box, but stronger and faster than his ground-based counterparts. Now that puts us at 10, and then at 9, we have 4 members of the intelligence pool, but nobody from the engineering pool. Intelligences of 9 are Chrome Dome, Grotesque, Punch, and Repugnus. And there are a couple with 8 in the intelligence pool, but the engineering pool, that's where they top out. Brainstorm and Crosshairs both have an intelligence of 8. On the bottom end, the dumbest Autobot of 1987 is Fastlane with an intelligence score of 3, followed right behind that by Wide Load with an intelligence score of 4. So that means 1/3 of the Throttlebots are not that bright. And so that takes us to speed.
I saw this in a movie about a bus that had to speed around the city, keeping its speed over 50. And if its speed dropped, it would explode. I think it was called The Bus That Couldn't Slow Down.
Now, once again, Fortress Maximus, a 10 in the speed category, so he leads all Autobots. No one else has a 10. That also means he leads the command category. From the engineering side, Brainstorm has a 9 and is in fact the only 9 or higher for the Autobots, with Cloudraker coming in at 8 for the infantry as the only character at the level 8. 3 characters at the level 7, including Scattershot, who also falls under command. The other 2 are from the intelligence pool in Blur and Highbrow. And it's interesting to note here, and maybe we'll go over these. Maybe we'll go over these at the end of the Autobots. All 3 Autobot Targetmasters have different stats, and Blur, who is meant to be the fastest, right? That's kind of his claim to fame, and was a 10 in 1986, is a 7 in 1987. So he's lost some speed undergoing the Targetmaster process. Now, at the bottom, we have 3. Actually, wow, we've got more than 3. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters with a speed of 2, and those being Double Cross and Wide Load, both of the engineering pool, Computron, who doesn't have a vehicle mode, and Cup from the infantry pool, as well as Repugnus from the counterintelligence pool. So the monster bots, of course, not that fast. The Combiner, of course, not that fast. And Cup took a hit here, too. Cup's speed originally in 1986 was a 6, and he has dropped precipitously down to 2. All right, well, that takes us to endurance, one of the categories that Fortress Maximus does not have a 10 in, but there is an Autobot with a 10 in endurance, and that would be Double Cross. So while he has a incredibly low strength and incredibly low speed, he is very durable at a 10. Fortress Maximus leads the command group with a 9. The other person in that command group, Scattershot, has an 8 in this category, actually, so not too far behind. Engineering, infantry, and intelligence all have someone with a 9, and those endurance folks are kind of a mirror to some extent of the folks who are slow. Wide Load, Hardhead, Cup, Nosecone, and Repugnus all feature endurances of 9. Now, the least durable Autobots, so we have 2 with a 4 in 1987, and those are Blur and Chase. So Blur, once again, losing some stats in 1987, dropping from 6 in 1986. All right, so moving on to rank, and once again, Fortress Maximus as the headmaster leader sits atop with a 10. There are no 9s on the Autobot side in 1987, but a handful of 8s, including Technobot leader Scattershot, Point Blank of the Targetmasters, Grotesque, the military strategist, and Monsterbot, and rising in rank from his original toy by only 1. Goldbug moves up to an 8 from a 7 as Bumblebee. So I guess that promotion to espionage director gave him a little bit of a bump. Highest ranking infantry member is at a 7, and that would be Computron. Now, on the flip side of this, on the bottom of the ranks, is no one terribly ranked low in this group. In fact, everyone here on the low side is a 5, and it ranks, and that's usually the center rank for a warrior. So a lot of the infantry folks who are listed as warriors or something similar are 5. Blur here, also a 5, having dropped from a 7 in 1986. And the same goes for Hot Rod, who had a rank of 10 in 1986. He also drops to a 5. Now, on the flip side of this, a lot of Autobots are very high in the field of courage. In fact, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 characters with a 10 in courage, and then another 7 with a 9 in courage. There's only one character under 6, and that would be Searchlight with a 4. Everyone else has 6 or higher. The folks with 10 courage, Fortress Maximus, Point Blank, Computron, Hardhead, Hot Rod, Cup, Goldbug, Grotesque, Punch, Repugnus, and Rollbar. The ones with 9, Scattershot, Brainstorm, Doublecross, Afterburner, Fastlane, Blur, and Chase. So there are a lot of brave little Autobots in 1987. And in fact, Hot Rod, Cup, and Blur all got a bump in courage in 1987. So that takes us to firepower, which you would think in 1987 would feature a whole bunch of boosts thanks to this little line having Targetmasters in them, right? So where characters' weapons have been highlighted as a play feature and being a more powerful way for the Transformers to be, right? Nobody has a 9 on the Autobots. There is one character with a 10. You guessed it, it's Fortress Maximus. However, after that, there's only a few with an 8, including Scattershot, Point Blank, and Hardhead. So that takes care of engineering and infantry. The highest intelligence group member to have a 7, there are actually 4 of them, and that would be Blur, Chrome Dome, Grotesque, and Lightspeed. Now, on the bottom end, there are a whole bunch of Autobots with virtually no firepower. Counting our way down, there is Freeway at a 3, which is the highest of the Throttlebots, Repugnus at a 2, and then 5 characters with a 1, and that is the 5 remaining Throttlebots of Wide Load Chase, Rollbar, Goldbug, and Searchlight. And finally, that brings us to skill. The one other category that Fortress Maximus does not have a 10 in has a 9 in this one. There are 4 Autobots, though, with 10s, and those are Sure Shot for the infantry, his role as a sharpshooter highlighted here with a 10 of skill, Grotesque, Highbrow, and Repugnus with 10 in skill as well. Those all come from the intelligence pool. Fortress Maximus leads the command pool with a 9. In fact, Scattershot scored pretty low in this category with a 6. And as far as the engineering group goes, we have 2 Autobots in here, Crosshairs and Freeway, with 9s as well in the skill category. Now, on the low end, not surprisingly, Strafe is the lowest skilled Autobot, the one who will shoot just about anywhere with a 4. So that wraps up the Autobots, but I want to do a quick side-by-side because we do have 4 characters that are returning from previous years and have had some changes to their tech spec numbers, some more drastic than others. So for Bumblebee turning into Goldbug, he had a strength of 2 as Bumblebee, intelligence of 8, 4 for speed, 7 for endurance, 7 for rank, 10 for courage, 1 for firepower, and 7 for skill. As Goldbug, he gets a big boost in the strength category, moving from 2 to 9. Speed, intelligence, both stay the same. Endurance and rank each move up 1, 2, and 8 each. And then the rest of the numbers of courage, firepower, skill all stay the same at 10, 1, and 7. Now, Hot Rod in 1986, being the main character in the movie, had huge numbers. 10, 10, 9, 10, 10, 7, 10, 10. That's from going from strength all the way down to skill. As a target master, a lot of these numbers drop. Strength drops from 10 to 6. Intelligence drops from 10 to 5. Speed drops from 9 to 6. Endurance drops from 10 to 8. Rank drops from 10 to 5. Somehow his courage goes up from 7 to 10. His firepower drops from 10 to 7. And skill drops from 10 to 6. Cup fared a little better moving from 1986. He had a strength of 9 in 86, an endurance of 7, speed of 6, endurance of 9, rank of 8, courage of 9, firepower of 6, and skill of 8. In 87, as a target master, he loses 1 strength. He dropping down to 8, drops down to 5 in intelligence. He drops down to 2 in speed, stays the same at 9 in endurance, drops down to 5 in rank, moves up 1 to 10 in courage, drops 1 to 5 in firepower, and remains the same at 8 in skill. And finally, Blur in 86 had a strength of 7, an intelligence of 8, a speed of 10, an endurance of 6, a rank of 7, courage of 8, firepower of 7, skill of 5. In 1987, he drops strength to 5 from 7. He drops his intelligence by 1 to 7. His speed drops by 3 to 7. His endurance drops by 2 to 4. His rank drops by 2 to 5. His courage goes up 1. His firepower stays the same, and his skill level actually goes up by 2 to a 7.
Hey, want to help out this podcast or the website TFU.INFO? There's a number of ways you can do it. Let me tell you how. You can help us directly by joining our Patreon and enrolling as a student at Transformers University. There, you'll get early access to the podcast as well as exclusive behind-the-scenes peeks and perks for as little as $1 a month. Sign up is quick and easy. Just swing on by to www.patreon.com/TFU.INFO. Another way you can help us is by using our Amazon link, www.tfu.info/Amazon. Type that into your browser whenever you want to shop at Amazon, and a portion of what you spend will be contributed back to us. It's that easy. Finally, you don't become the world's longest running transforming toy archive without some help from other fans. We're always on the hunt for photos of figures and accessories we're missing from our pages. If you'd like to contribute, go to tfu.info/help for a list of what we need, or send an email to info@tfu.info. tfu.info, the Alpha Trion and Omega Prime of transforming toys. Now, back to the show.
That wraps up the Autobots, but let's now go back through all of this with the Decepticons. So the Decepticon side of this conversation is fairly interesting. There's a large number of infantry and intelligence members, but not much else. There are 2 members in the command pool, those being Scorponok, the headmaster commander, and Hunger, the Terracon leader. So much like the Autobot side, their counterparts are the only command characters in 1987. Now, for the rest of the Decepticons, the engineering pool only has 2 members in it, and that being Apeface and Cyclonus, both with the function of Saboteur. Now, the infantry features a number of Decepticons. We have Abominus, the Gestalt Warrior, Battletrap, the Assault Team, which is also the function for his Duocon counterpart, Flywheels. Blot is a foot soldier and a nose monster. Cutthroat is a shock trooper. Overkill is a warrior. Ripper Snapper, we have another Decepticon terrorist with a Ripper Snapper. I believe previously that is also Wild Rider, if I remember right, from 1986. It's one of the Stunticons for sure. Sinner Twin has an interesting function in that he is a sentry. So it's the 2-headed, dragon monsters, kind of like a Cerebus. He's the guard. He's the Decepticon guard. Six Shot is the solo Transformer assault group. Skullcruncher is a swamp warrior, which makes sense since he is an alligator. Slugslinger is listed as air defense, and Trigger Happy as a gunner. Now, in the intelligence pool, we have some very unique functions all around. We have Mind Wipe, who is functioned as a hypnotist, which goes to his vampire bat Dracula powers of being able to hypnotize his enemies. Misfire is listed as an interceptor. Pounce is listed as an infiltrator. Scourge, of course, the tracker. Slugfest is a messenger, so don't shoot him. Snapdragon, also listed as an interceptor. Weird Wolf is a tracker, which makes sense. And then Wingspan is a data processor. So he is the guy at the computer, I guess, punching in the numbers. And speaking of numbers, let's get to it, starting with strength. In the strength category, there are a lot of strong Decepticons in 1987. While there's only one Autobot ranked in strength at 10, and that's Fortress Maximus, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Decepticons with a strength of 10, including both commanders, Hunger and Scorponok. Apeface is got a strength of 10. The only member of the engineering pool, in fact, with a strength of 10. Abominus, Six Shot, and Skullcruncher all ranked for 10 in the infantry group. And Mind Wipe and Snapdragon also have a strength of 10. And now this is actually important for me to point out here. Apeface and Snapdragon, there was an error on their packaging. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that at the end of the Decepticons, I think. But it's worth noting that Snapdragon's numbers are accurate to his packaging. Apeface's numbers are duplicated from Snapdragon's. So they're entirely identical, meaning we really don't have accurate numbers for Apeface. And I went and checked them against his Japanese numbers as well. And the numbers were, I guess, copied from the American version. So they are identical as well. The only clues we have to Apeface's real numbers are the ones that display on the toy, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. Now, bringing up the second place entries for strength with the Decepticons, we do have 2 that have strengths of 9, and that is Blot, the foot soldier nose monster, and Slugfest, the messenger. So, yeah, you don't want to shoot that messenger. Now, on the weak side, Ripper Snapper, the terrorist, is strength of 3, and the lowest of all of the Decepticons from 1987. Moving on to intelligence. Now, no one on the Decepticon side has an intelligence of 10 in 1987. However, there are a handful of 9s, and they do cover all of the groups. So, Scorponok covers the command group with an intelligence of 9. Apeface represents the engineering group with an intelligence of 9. Six Shot, only member of the infantry with an intelligence of 9. In the intelligence group, we have Mind Wipe, Scourge, Snapdragon, of course, because Apeface and Snapdragon share the same numbers, and Wingspan, all ranking at the smartest level of Decepticons for that year. Now, at the lowest number for 1987. There are a couple of 2s, with Blot and Slugfest not being all that bright, but the dumbest Decepticon of 1987 with a 1 in intelligence is Abominus, and in fact, this is the first time any Transformer of either faction has an intelligence score that low. So Abominus, officially, through the first 4 years, and we'll see as we go if there's any others, is the dumbest of all the Transformers.
I am too smart. I am too smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.
And keep in mind, that's lower than any of the Dinobots. That's lower than any of the other combiners. There has not been anyone below a 2 in the history of the brand up to this point. Moving on to speed. With a speed of 10, the only 10 for the Decepticons in 1987, Cyclonus, the fastest among that year, with a speed of 10. At 9, we have Apeface, also as the other part of that engineering group, with a 9, but is it really 9? Mindwipe, Snapdragon, and Weirdwolf, also from the intelligence pool, with a speed of 9. For the infantry pool, we have a 1-8 in Slugslinger with the speed of 8. And for the command pool, we have to go all the way down to a 4 for Scorponok. Now, on the slowest end of the spectrum, with a 1 in speed, we have Slugfest as the slowest Decepticon. So the little cassette Stegosaurus has a strength of 9 and a speed of 1. So he is a very strong messenger, but he is not going to get you your message very quickly. I guess he is the DHL of Transformers messengers. Moving on to endurance, there are some tough Decepticons in 1987. There are 6 with an endurance of 10, plus 4 more at the level of 9. 10, we have both commanders, Hunger and Scorponok, plus the combined form of the Terracons in Abominus, all with 10s. Blot, the foot soldier nose monster, that nose can take a beating. He is a 10 as well, plus 6-shot, the solo Transformer Assault Group, and Ninja Consultant at a 10, and Skullcruncher, the Swamp Warrior, all representing the infantry at a 10. The ones at 9 are also mostly in the infantry, with Cutthroat, Ripper Snapper, and Cinder Twin. So all 5 of the Terracons, while the Terracons may be dumb as bricks combined, they can take a beating. And Misfire also has an endurance of 9 for the intelligence group. For the engineering group, Apeface is the sole representative at this level with an 8. And should we trust those numbers? I don't know, because we don't really know those true numbers. Those belong to Snapdragon. On the bottom end of the endurance group, the lowest endurance of any Decepticon is actually at a 5, and 3 Decepticons share that number. The Decepticon clones, Pounce, the Puma, and Wingspan have a 5 in endurance, as well as Cyclonus. Now, rank is going to be a very, very interesting category to talk about. We only have one Decepticon ranked at a 10, and that is Scorponok. We have 2 more ranked at a 9, and one of those is Hunger, which makes plenty of sense, right? He's the commander of the Terracons. The other one ranked at a 9, I don't think you're going to be able to guess if you wanted to. And that Decepticon ranked at 9 is Weirdwolf. That's right. Weirdwolf has a rank of 9. Put that in perspective of previous years, right? Megatron has a rank of 10. Previous Decepticons to have a rank of 9. Shockwave, Skywarp, which we believe is Starscream's numbers flipped onto the wrong card, as mentioned in the previous By the Numbers episode. Galvatron, and the first iteration of Cyclonus. Yes, Cyclonus' numbers, if you haven't noticed, have changed as he's become a Targetmaster, just like the Autobot Targetmasters, and we'll talk about those changes in a little bit. And really, to put this in perspective, Soundwave has a rank of 8. So Weirdwolf is actually a very high member of the Decepticon army. And it's funny that this hasn't been explored further. So there you have it. That's one of those ones that is just really strange and interesting and weird. And if you've been on the fence about picking up the current Walmart Weird Wolf figure, maybe that's a bonus reason for going after him. Now, in the infantry, the highest ranking Decepticon in the infantry is Six Shot. Now, again, this is a fairly big, well-known Transformer from 87, and he has a rank of 7. Meanwhile, in the engineering pool, once again, we have Apeface, which is really Snapdragon's numbers, and Cyclonus, who's been busted down to a 6. At the bottom, bringing up the bottom here, we have Blot, the Foot Soldier Nose Monster, at a 4, and Slugfest, also at a 4. All right, moving on to Courage. Once again, the command group sitting pretty here with 2 10s in Hunger and Scorponok, both with 10s. Cyclonus, the only member of the engineering pool with a 10 in Courage, and on the infantry side, Abominus and Blot, the Foot Soldier Nose Monster, sitting there with 10s. At 9, we have Skullcruncher, Trigger Happy, and Weird Wolf for the intelligence group, also with a Courage of 9. On the bottom end, the least courageous Decepticon would be Slugslinger with a Courage of 3. Moving on to Firepower. We got Hunger and Scorponok, the commanders, once again, with very high firepowers of 9. Six Shot, the solo Transformer Assault Group and Ninja Consultant, has a firepower of 9 as well. No 10s in this category for the Decepticons, but Six Shot leads the infantry. For the engineering team, it's Apeface, or is it, with a firepower of 7. And for the intelligence group, every single member, with the exception of one, has a firepower of 7. So that would be Mindwipe, Misfire, Pounce, Scourge, Snapdragon, Weird Wolf, and Wingspan. The only missing member of that group, Slugfest, is the second lowest, tied for the second lowest, with 5. Skullcruncher is the other 5 in that group, but the lowest for the year. And this is weird, considering he took a firepower upgrade in 1987. Cyclonus has the lowest firepower of any Decepticon that year with a 4. Finally, onto the skills section. Only one skill of 10 in 1987, and it's not who you think it would be. I would think it would be Six Shot, given his many abilities and, his ninja consulting.
All right, listen up. I'm the ninja consultant for the Decepticons. My name is Six Shot.
It is, in fact, Pounce, the Puma.
Now discover the clones. Decepticon clones. Look identical, but one transforms into a Puma, the other into a hawk.
As the only 10 in skill for 1987. And that would put the 10 belonging to the intelligence group. Scorponok leads the commanders with a 9. Slugslinger leads the infantry also with a 9. And Wingspan does have a skill of a 9, but he's also part of that intelligence group. So that list leaves the engineering folks. And Apeface, whose numbers you can't trust, is a 7. And Cyclonus is a 5, almost at the bottom. The least skilled Decepticon, and this probably makes the most sense, is Misfire with a 2 in skill. All right, so that wraps up the actual numbers, but let's talk a few things in relation to previous entries and other Decepticons. So, as I've been talking about this whole time, Apeface, his numbers are definitely Snapdragons. Now, on the Apeface toy, the Headmasters did have this neat feature with the little rolling barrels in their chest that when you plugged a head into them, it would reveal some of their stats, those stats being speed, strength, and intelligence. Now, if you took Apeface's partner, Spasma, and plugged it into the Apeface toy, you would get numbers for speed, strength, and intelligence. And those numbers are 7 for speed, 9 for strength, and 5 for intelligence. None of those puts him at the top of any of the groups or at the bottom of any of the groups. Now, we do have some carryover Decepticons from 1986 to 1987 as Targetmasters. Cyclonus, whose numbers in 1986 were all fairly high. So in 1986, Cyclonus had a strength of 8, an intelligence of 8, speed of 9, an endurance of 8, a rank of 9, a courage of 9, firepower of 7, and a skill of 7. And so strength and intelligence stayed the same. Speed went up by 1. Endurance went down by 3 to a 5. His rank dropped by 3 to a 6. His courage went up by 1 to a 10. And then his firepower, even though he took on a firepower upgrade with the Targetmaster, went from a 7 to a 4, and his skill dropped from a 7 to a 5. Now, Scourge in 86 was 8 in strength, 8 in intelligence, 8 in speed, 7.5 in endurance, 8 in rank, 8 in courage, 7.5 in firepower, 7 in skill. Now, most of those numbers stayed the same or were close. He went down in strength to a 7. He went up in intelligence to a 9. He dropped to a 6 in speed and dropped to a 6 in endurance. So he dropped 2 and then 1.5 respectively. He stayed the same in rank and courage, both with an 8. He dropped half a point in firepower again after taking an upgrade to a 7, and his skill remained the same at 7.
Thanks for listening to the show. Stick around to hear what's coming up next episode, but first, I want to fill you in on a few ways you can stay in touch with the show. Want to be on the show? Leave us a voicemail at 702-763-4838. That's 702-POD-4TFU. Or send an email to info@TFU.INFO. Be sure to catch us on Twitter at TFU_info and on Facebook and Instagram under the username TFU.INFO, all one word. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TFU.INFO, where we post all of our podcasts, plus special video segments, reviews, and live coverage of Transformers-related events such as New York Toy Fair and New York Comic-Con. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please visit us at www.tfu.info, the world's longest-running transforming toy archive.
And that will wrap up another edition of Transformers University. I am your host, Anthony Brucali, owner-operator, madman behind TFU.info. I want to thank you so much for sticking with the show, for staying subscribed, for leaving comments, for following on Twitter at TFU_info. I want to also thank you for checking out all my guest appearances over the last couple of months. And please do check out those podcasts, Hall of Justice, The Full Force, Married with Comics, Transmissions, Radio Free Cybertron. I have appeared or will appear on most of those either in the previous month or so or in the next few weeks. And speaking of which, coming up next time on Transformers University, we're going to head back to the UK and do another run of stories I've never read with the Marvel UK Comics 113 through 120. What's in store? I don't know. I've never read them. I barely looked at the covers. And we're going to do that as we inch ever so closer to our very special 100th episode coming up. That will be episode 98 of Transformers University. And in episode 99, we're going to go back to toys and talk a bit about Canada and Mexico in 1987 and the STARS program in 1987, plus the mail away figures for 1987. That's all what's coming up until our special 100th episode, which I am keeping under wraps for just a little longer. What will it be? Yeah, stay tuned and find out. So until next time, once again, I am your host, Anthony Brucali, owner, operator, madman behind TFU.info. Until next time, see ya.